What happens when you force a marriage with a person who simply does not know how to love you back? In 19th century Bengal, a woman's life was defined by the walls of her home. Society expected girls to shrink, stepping quietly into subservient roles as daughters and wives. Mrunmayee was the anomaly. She was a loud, wild girl who spent her days climbing trees and playing with the village boys, completely refusing to be tamed. When Apurba, an educated man from the city, visited her village, he found her untamed spirit captivating. Within weeks, their families arranged a marriage. Apurba legally secured the woman he admired, but by forcing her into a traditional marriage, he effectively destroyed the very freedom that made her beautiful to him. The wedding did not bring intimacy, it brought an immediate emotional shutdown. Mrunmayee refused to perform her domestic duties, treating her new household as a territory she was forced to occupy, rather than a home. This creates a paradox of proximity. Forcing physical closeness on a captive triggers their internal defense mechanisms, creating massive emotional distance. Apurba's presence was a reminder of lost autonomy. Every demand for affection only strengthened the invisible wall between them. Apurba eventually realized that authority was a useless tool. If he wanted her to love him, he would have to find a way to reach her that didn't involve force. He chose a strategy that was unheard of for his time. He left his bride behind in the village and returned to his studies in the city. By physically removing himself, he eliminated the pressure of his expectations. For the first time since the wedding, Mrunmayee was no longer under constant surveillance. From a distance, he began to write. His letters didn't ask her to come to the city or demand she act like a wife. They offered only gentle, patient affection. This distance allowed the vacuum of his absence to replace the friction of his presence. He was returning her agency to her, one letter at a time. At first, Mrunmayee met his efforts with indifference. She left the letters unopened, using her silence to maintain the defensive perimeter she had lived in for months. But then she observed the other village women. They saw her as lucky, noticing the tenderness in the way Apurba wrote to her, even while he was away. When she finally sat down and read the letters herself, she found a man who didn't want to change her at all. He simply saw her wildness, the temper and the rebellion, and chose her anyway. Because he asked for nothing, the weight of expectation vanished, and for the first time she felt free to give everything. This is a core rule of human connection. True vulnerability only takes root when a person feels safe enough to lower their own guard without being pushed. When his studies were complete, Apurba returned to the village. He walked towards his home, unsure if his months of patience had changed anything at all. He found Mrunmayee waiting for him. She was quiet, her hair neatly arranged, but her eyes held a warmth that had never been there before. Her spirit hadn't been broken by his authority. Instead, she had used the space he gave her to make a choice, and she had chosen him. This story was written by Rabindranath Tagore in 1893. Even then, he understood the only love worth having is the kind that is freely given. True love cannot coexist with control. To truly hold someone, you must be brave enough to let them go. So, are you patient enough to love like Apurba, or brave enough to demand freedom like Mrunmayee?